Hello and welcome to Iris Metals Shareholder and Investor Webinar. Iris Metals ticker is IR1. My name is Mel Tempera from NWR Communications, and today I'm pleased to have Kevin Smith, who is the Non-Executive Director at Iris Metals, and Matt Hartman, President of the US Operations. Thank you for joining us, guys. I know it's been a really busy few months for you and for Iris, so it's a great opportunity to have a catch up and share with everybody what's been happening. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mel. Good to be with you, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We're excited to be here and give you an update on Iris Metals. We've had some good news flow recently, and we thought it would be a good opportunity to reach out to shareholders and give everyone a fuller update of what's been going on here. I know we have some slides that are going to start in a minute here, but the big news recently that you may have seen is we successfully completed our recent fundraising round, which we raised $8 million from a number of investors, including a strategic investor named Stardust Power, which is located in the US, not too far from our assets in South Dakota, in the middle of the US. And it's big news for us. We're pleased to have them on our register. And along with that, we've announced a 90-day exclusivity period with them, and during which we're going to discuss with each other and investigate possible collaborations, offtakes in number of business relationships where we might be additive and accretive to each other's businesses. And so on top of that, and in the run up to that, in November, we had some good news on the development side, where we announced we had successfully produced spodumene concentrate, SC6, and from our Beecher project, and that we had then gone further through the supply chain and downstream and successfully converted that into battery grade lithium carbonate. We actually made 99.9% lithium carbonate, so material ready to go straight into batteries. So all of these things together has been really good news, and it positions Iris to make a transition from an exploration play to a production play, and that's what we're focused on. So maybe, and I see the slides are up now. Mel, if you could go to the first slide here. Yeah, so this map, for those of you that are not familiar with the asset where it's located in the U.S., the green box in the middle is the state of South Dakota. It's where the majority of our assets are, including our flagship project, the Beecher project, and nearby the Tin Mountain project, just a few miles away. And if you look at this map and a lot of the big names that are on this map, where they're building their battery plants, EV plants, and so on, we feel like we've got a great location relative to a customer base, growing customer base that's seeking production in preferably domestic production. And so, this map, there's not many companies that can put out a map like this that have the timeline to production that we do. And so we feel like we're in a great position here going forward as we head into 2025 and we move through a couple of the items you'll see as we go through our slide deck here on development. But I guess what I would call out to you here to start with, and I'm sure we're going to have a Q&A after. There'll be a lot of questions about the impending transition in the U.S., presidential changeover, what that might mean, and so on. But I think we feel like we're sitting pretty well with our asset here compared to other potential projects around the world. And as we dive in more deeper here to, what exactly is going on in the U.S., the programs that are available in the U.S., it's primarily been the IRA Act that was signed by President Biden about 2 years ago that kicked off the EV transition in a major way. including incentives for buying new cars, production tax credits for producing battery raw materials, additional production tax credits for building downstream assets and bringing finished product to market. So all of these things together have brought about the build out that the companies and the projects that were announced that you saw on the previous slide there. And we think this is going to continue. The number of jobs that are being created is really impressive. The number of factories that are being built in the U.S. for the first time is really. And if you look at a lot of the states where these are happening, and there is some data out there to support this, upwards of 90% of the beneficiaries of this program are in what are termed red states here in America. So as we think about what happens here in 2025 with the presidential transition, we're feeling pretty good that transition is going to continue on track here, because there's just too many jobs, too much economic development in GDP that's being developed here to turn away from that in any large scale. And while there may be some transitions and change over to things, we feel really good about that. So resource security. If you go back, I'm sorry, Mel, one second there. Resource security. All of these things come together to support IRIS's investment thesis, our project, the economics of our project in the customer base we feel like we're going to have here. We've got the captive audience that imports approximately 99% of their raw materials right now. So we feel like there's a solid place for us in the supply stack and going forward. So with that, if you could please go to the next slide, Mel. And I'd pass over to Matt here, our President of U.S. Operations, to talk a little bit more specifically about what's going on at our projects.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Kevin said, just kind of welcoming everybody to this today. I think most are probably somewhat familiar, at least at a minimum, with our project portfolio here in the United States and South Dakota. Primarily, we've been focused a lot with our resource drilling at the Beecher project, which encompasses the Longview, the Black Diamond, and the Beecher pegmatites. And then late in Q4 of this year, we also were drilling on our Tin Mountain project. Beyond that, though, we have a large package of properties that are on federal mining claims, which we've been doing a lot of work with over the summer, soil sampling, outcrop sampling. More recently, we've been doing a little bit of airborne geophysics with that as well, looking towards how we might expand upon that next year to drive some of those targets further along the path to discovery. But as you can see, we've been focused pretty heavily on our patented mining claims. Those are private parcels, ones that allow a much more expedited permitting process. And we think that provides us a nice advantage and an ability to move these projects along at a time frame that many other companies cannot experience. Next slide, Mel. So I think this slide is becoming pretty familiar with everyone. We've now had these results out for a bit of time now. We ended up our drilling program at the Beecher project in September of this year, towards the end of September this year. 67 diamond drill holes complete, adding that on to our 50 RC holes that we'd also completed back in 2023. We are moving that mineral resource estimate along currently. We obviously have a few drill results that are still out there. We're awaiting receipt of those assays. We'll probably have some news flow related to that upcoming soon. And then in Q1 of next year, we expect to have that mineral resource complete for the Beecher project, encompassing those 3 pegmatites with a view towards where we're going to go next with that project. Very encouraging intercepts, though. As you can see, where we get 70 meters or 1.4%, those are nice long intercepts. This is not some type of stacked dikes where there's a lot of waste in between or things of that nature. These are larger bodies. They're still open at depth. We do believe that, even after we do the mineral resource estimate this year, that we will have significant upside and do plan on perhaps coming back and drilling some of that out towards maybe Q3 of 2025 to further increase that resource. However, we do have to draw a line in the sand and move this project along because we do have, obviously mining permits already in place on this. So we want to get that resource done so we can put a mine plan to this and start that initial production piece and move this project along towards that type of activity while still, obviously still retaining the ability to further increase that resource as we move forward with the project. Next slide, Mel. Part of that with progressing the project forward has been looking at the processing and looking at development of a flow sheet for the project. We've done quite a bit of work on that with SGS up in Canada. That's consisted of HLS and flotation test work on samples from our drill program at the Beecher project. We've had very good recoveries utilizing a combined or hybrid flow sheet that indicates DMS and flotation, HLS being a replicant, a lab scale replicant of DMS. Our samples, as you can see the photo right there, that's some of our concentrated SC6 concentrate out of the Beecher project. It's very white, very pure, very low iron. Very happy with how that has turned out. We're averaging, I think we've got the range in there on the slides there. You can see 63 to 82 and change. I think we had one sample that was at 62, but most everything was high 70s, low 80s that we ran. So very happy with the results out of that. That was just preliminary. We have some other additional test work planned going forward and hope to further refine that flow sheet. Part of that testing that we're looking at doing right now is going to be a demonstration mining phase at the Beecher project, planned for Q1 of next year. We're currently going through our MSHA, which is our mining safety and health administration regulations here, getting our training programs up, all the basic things that you need to actually operate a mine here in the United States and in South Dakota. So this is very real, very, very much a project that we are pushing forward with. During that demonstration mining phase, we will be collecting a bulk sample. Right now we have that slated for around 10 tons. It might go a little bit larger than that. That allows us then to be able to utilize DMS as opposed to HLS. It won't be lab scale anymore. It will actually be more of a small, test sample of what we're actually going to be doing out there. So we'll run that DMS and that flotation, get an even stronger confirmation of what we think our recoveries are going to be as we move forward, and that will allow us to kind of finalize that flow sheet and then move into design of our facilities and design of how we want to push this project forward. I would add also as well, I'll get into this a little bit on the next slide, but we are looking at different ways we can then push that spodumene concentrate forward in the market, whether it be as an SC6 or finding the right partners to then take that to either lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide, with our primary goal being doing that completely within the United States. We feel that's an advantage for us, is that we're inside the United States. If we don't have to take that material over a border, it becomes all that more valuable to the potential partners that you saw on that map at the beginning of this presentation. Next slide.
Just want to interrupt quickly, Matt. Sorry. If anyone does want to ask a question, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So whilst we're going, if there are any questions, just jot them in. That we'll receive them, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. Although we are limited with time, but yeah, as we go, if you do have any questions, pop it into that chat box. Sorry, Matt, go for it.
I was going to say, I don't know if Kevin, do you want to take this slide?
Sure. Yeah, I mentioned it in my earlier comments here, but yeah, we're pleased that we were able to produce SC6 from our spodumene, but then more pleased that we were able to make a battery grade lithium carbonate from that in the U.S. with U.S. IP and demonstrate our capability to go to do the whole value chain in the U.S. That's unique. There's not a lot of people that can claim to do that. I think there's only one other company, major established player, that does that in very small quantities. So we feel like we have a great opportunity when you look at the captive audience that was shown on the map initially at the outset here, and you think about where we're heading from a transition perspective here in the U.S. The T word, the tariff word, seems to come up every day now, and more and more around every aspect of the U.S. And I think that given the fact that we have upstream and downstream in the U.S., that we're one of the few people that can deliver finished product in the U.S. without leaving the borders, positions us very well. We've got the high ground there, and every tweet that comes out around tariffs, I think is just another tick in the box on our side and on Iris's side, that we've got the better project around, and compared to things that may be north of the border in Canada or maybe in other friendly countries here. Nobody knows where this is going to go, but we know that we're on the right side of that tariff wall. And so we've just give me 1 second, Mel, if you go back to the other slide. So we were able to make battery grade lithium carbonate. We are now looking to work with automakers and send around samples of that in short order and get that qualified, and that will open up a number of commercial opportunities for us as well. And so that's what's on the outlook for 2025 in that respect.
So obviously, Beecher is not the only project that we have in the portfolio, as you saw from that pyramid stack of properties at a couple slides ago. We are targeting more of a hub and spoke production model, whereby we have a centralized processing facility, then several different resources that we are mining either in a series or in a continuous manner to create an idealized blend for that processing facility. So as part of that, we moved our drill rigs onto Tin Mountain in October of this year. We have completed 26 drill holes, and the meterage was pretty similar to what's listed right there. I don't remember the final tally off the top of my head. We're in the process of demobbing out of the site right now, so we've wrapped up that drilling, completed that. We will have news flow in Q1 related to the results of the assay work on that ore material that's come out of the project. We actually were really happy. It went very smoothly. Obviously, we're drilling kind of tight in here in the Northern Hemisphere. Winter, we have snow on the ground here in Custer, South Dakota. Today, it's time of year for us to wrap up and do the stuff indoors where it's warm right now. But very happy with what we've seen so far in the core. As I noted, the results, the assay results will be coming out in the news flow in Q1. And we are targeting either the end of Q1 or the very earliest of Q2 for that maiden MRE for Tin Mountain. So once again, this is part of our strategy to take multiple resources, stack them on top of each other, gain a momentum for the project, and then construct that central processing facility that'll be able to handle ore from all these various projects. Obviously, just like what we've done with Beecher, we'll have metallurgical test work that'll come out of Tin Mountain. And so we'll have quite a number of different activities that we're pushing forward in parallel here to be able to come to a head towards the end of 2025. We're making some major decisions around production and hopefully the start of mining operations across a series of projects for us. And then, obviously with our Beecher project, with our Tin Mountain project, we're also going to be drilling our Edison project, which you see on this map as well. That's another historic producer. We already have received some of our permitting documentation from the state of South Dakota to be able to go ahead and do that drilling. Right now, it's planned to be doing that in April of next year. So start of second quarter, we'll be mobilized in there once our weather kind of opens that up for us. And then also we'll be spending a lot of time. We have a large amount of ground, 17,000 hectares of exploration ground here in the Black Hills, where we can continue to bolt on additional projects to drill out and add resource to our portfolio. We've done a lot of work with soil sampling, with outcrop sampling over the past probably 7 to 8 months. As I noted earlier, we're currently working with some geophysics to try to refine how much we can look undercover. Using a variety of techniques there. So we'll have some interesting, I think, news flow and additional work during 2025 associated with this particular workflow as we generate additional targets. I think by probably mid 2025, we will have put together enough work here to have a very strong drill target, if not multiple drill targets that we then add into the queue, if you will, for where we move our drill rigs as we progress for building out this portfolio. And so just to give you kind of an idea of the work program and kind of the generative news flow that we're going to have based on our current plans for 2025. And granted, you know, things change from time to time, but this is how we see it today. I think I've kind of divided this into two things. If you look at the top, it's exploration and resource development. So those are a lot of our drilling activities, our mineral resource estimates, and where we're going with things. So you can see, you know, we've completed Beecher, we've been to Tin Mountain, we've completed that now. We're going to have an MREs out for Beecher and Tin Mountain. We're going to drill test Edison. And then, you know, as we get back into the back into 2025, regardless of what other exploration drilling we're doing, we will probably come back and do some resource expansion drilling at Beecher and Tin Mountain because we're already seeing the potential of those projects for further growth beyond even what we've done to date. On the mining and processing side, now obviously this is more towards development of operations, you know, income generating activities, which I think everybody's, you know, excited for us to get to that stage. We've been completing a lot of the metallurgical test work. We're getting close to be able to, you know, refine that process flow sheet. We're going to go through a demonstration mining phase. And then it's going to be all those studies that are required to actually move this thing forward, you know, the process, actual process plant design, economic analysis, a mine plan. And then hopefully by Q3 of 2025, we'll have an investment decision on the construction of a processing facility. You know, we'll have a location, we'll have a plant design. That flow sheet will obviously be well refined by then. It'll come down to, okay, here's what it's going to take to actually put this into production. From a mining perspective, obviously it's a little less complex. That it's less capital intensive. As you've seen with a lot of the photos we have outcropping mineralization. So startup of that mining operations is relatively low cost and low risk for us. And so what I see there is, you know, by Q5, geez, it doesn't even exist. By Q4 of 2025, we should be able to start mining operations, perhaps a little stripping, a little stockpiling, things of that nature, so that we're set up to be able to feed a processing facility from day one after it's constructed. And I'll let you do this one, Kevin.
Yeah, so we just announced the successful completion of our investment by Stardust Power into Iris Metals. So Stardust is, for those of you that don't know, it is a U.S.-based and U.S.-listed developer of a lithium refinery in the state of Nebraska. Oklahoma. Next door, and they're going to be developing that as potentially one of the biggest lithium refineries in the U.S. And so they are looking to align themselves with upstream supply sources and ensure that they have the raw materials necessary to feed that plant. And so they've entered into a strategic relationship with Iris. They are talking to us now about what we might do with things going forward. But we see them as an anchor and a cornerstone here for our downstream efforts going forward. They've got a great plan. They're listed on NASDAQ with a market cap of approximately $300 million US, and have a lot of momentum behind them. Also looking at the DLE space as well as the hard rock and spodumene space. So it seems like they have they're holding a good position there. And there's a bit of a strategic development going on in that area of Oklahoma with other battery raw material suppliers coming into the area to create a bit of a center of gravity in the U.S. to supply that constellation of energy of EV makers and battery makers that are building plants in the middle of the U.S.
Okay. Thank you, guys. There's so much going on. As mentioned before, there is the opportunity to ask Kevin and Matt any questions while you have them here. There's been a couple that have come through, and we chatted about this yesterday, Kevin. We knew this would come up. What does the election results and impending Trump moving into power, what is that going to do? Do things change greatly?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's obviously what people are focused on here in the space for critical minerals and energy metals. But if you look at who Trump's support is coming from, where they're located, whether it's Elon Musk is his right-hand man here, and the critical industrial policies he's supporting. Obviously, where his wealth and business empire lies is where those interests are in Tesla and EVs. We feel very good about that there won't be anything negative that goes on in the space here. And then I touched on it earlier, and there's some pretty good data out there, if you look for it, about where the beneficiaries have been of the IRA funding that's come through, and it's consistently over 90% of the dollars that have flowed from the program, over 90% of the job creation, and 90% of the plant equipment, bricks and mortar construction that have flowed from this have all been in red states that supported Trump. So you look at that and you see it's his constituents are the beneficiaries of all of this. So, we're not anticipating a hardcore pivot away from this. We think that all the congressional districts, senators, they've got a lot of jobs in their district that are dependent on this continued rollout of EVs and this energy transition here in the U.S. So it's hard to see a wholesale pivot away from that. If anything, if you draw some takeaways from Trump's first term, what he did with renewables is he moved fossil fuels up in the merit stack and essentially gave them access to subsidies and benefits equal to what the wind and power and other renewables were getting. So I would expect some sort of a similar benefit perhaps for fossil fuels, where they can tap into IRA funding more readily and give them levelize that playing field rather than a tearing down of the battery metal complex here.
I might direct this one to Matt. Is there anyone else peer related that is close to production in the area? Is there anyone else, as close to production?
You're kind of breaking up there a little bit for me, Mel, but I think the question was around whether there's anybody else kind of in the geographic area, or maybe perhaps even within the United States, that are kind of along the same time frame as us. And the answer is I think we're pretty unique. If you look regionally, there's a few other companies that have been poking around the Black Hills of South Dakota. We're the only company that's drilling. We're definitely the only company putting together a mineral resource estimate. And then if you look broader, kind of within the United States landscape, obviously, I believe Albemarle still gets a little bit of production out of Silver Peak. And that's really about it right now for the United States as far as lithium production. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong on that. There's a few other stories, I think, that are more Carolina based in North Carolina, but we see those as not being on as fast as time frame as what we're experiencing here in South Dakota right now. So I think we're uniquely positioned to be able to take advantage of a speed to market story with our projects here, and are doing everything we can to take that advantage by moving things along as quickly as we can.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And in terms of looking at the broader lithium market, Kevin, a question would be, it's been a difficult year, 12 to 18 months. Really impressed with how Iris have just kept their eyes on, controlling what you can control and just having wins. What do you see happening in terms of the macro in the next 12 months?
Yeah, it's obviously been a difficult, 12 months here for price and for various lithium project and battery metal developers around the world. I think what we're focused on here is the opportunity set given the jurisdiction we're in the U.S. here. We don't have to compete against the Chinese. We don't have to compete against a number of WA spodumene projects or other offshore projects, being in the U.S. in a likely tariff regime that's coming here, having the upstream and downstream capabilities here. feels like, sets us apart, that we have that unique opportunity set along with jurisdiction, along with speed to market of already being licensed and permitted here. That's unique and puts us at the front of the line here. And if you recall the map that we showed at the beginning of the slides here, we've got a captive audience that's importing, 99% of their raw materials right now. So we feel like there's a good place for us in that supply demand balance, and that we can get good contracts to support us and bring us into production at great numbers that support good NPVs for us. So that's what we're focused on. That's what we're heading towards during 2025. And while it may take longer for the broader macro market to solve itself, I do think China will continue to grow in the space. And I do think, there's growth in gigafactories, there's growth in EVs, there's growth in the raw materials to supply those. I think both of those charts ultimately go up and to the right. And while they may leapfrog each other from time to time, you may get air pockets, which is what I think we're in right now. I do think that things resume, later in 25 and into 26. I think that as a lot of those plants come online, you'll see the raw material prices pick up, and things will look good again.
Yeah. And if this market as the announcement came out last week, $8 million in this market, goes to show that they're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. We're very pleased by that. Obviously, again, I think it's our opportunity set is unique and differentiated compared to others, even other North American projects that may be north of the border in Canada, that may have, fly in, fly out operations that they would have to develop, that have permitting timelines, construction, large CapEx numbers, things like that. We don't have any of those things ahead of us here. We've got just an incredible, opportunity here and runway, and we're looking to take advantage of that as quickly as we can.
Matt, I've got a question. What is the minimum combined deposit size that would be required for economic production?
Yeah, I mean, we're still a little early in our economic analysis of this. Obviously, we have a lot of confidence moving forward with that. We're going to achieve some critical mass just with the drilling that we've already done at Beecher and looking at the combination with that in Tin Mountain. Obviously we're working through our flow sheets, working through what the CapEx requirements are going to be. If I'm just taking a kind of a general baseline number, I think if you're at 5 million tons, and you have a significant advantage in terms of low CapEx for construction, low cost of operating. I'm not up in Northern Canada where I've got to fly people in and out just to get things started. I think we've got a big advantage here. We don't need to have a 20 million ton project to get things off the ground. And I think by the time we roll around at the end of the first quarter, demonstrate out with our MREs that everyone will kind of see that, yeah, we've got enough critical mass here to move things forward and to progress with the studies that we've already been working on as we march towards a production story here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that as I said, it's been a really big couple of weeks and months for you both. I hope you get a bit of respite over the coming break. And yeah, it's going to be a big 25 for Iris and for the team. So congratulations.
Thank you, Mel, and thank you everybody for joining us today. We appreciate you being with us and wish everybody the best for the holidays and the new year.
Thanks, guys.